a few webinars back, you talked about the hierarchy ruling over us, regressive ETs, shadow government, deep state, etc. Can you go over that again and give us the chain of command as well as the roles they play and what occupation they might hold?
Boy. Okay, that might take 10 minutes or so. Winston Churchill once said that there are entities that rule this planet that are far different than anyone could possibly conceive. Something thereabouts. I know that that's really, really close. And I want you to understand that when I talk about extraterrestrials, I'm not just referring to third density intergalactic travelers. I'm also referring to dimensional beings, beings that live in a physical realm in a dimension that is not our own, but who can interact with us. They have civilizations, they have a culture, they have a system of living with each other that in many respects we mirror, okay? The biggest difference is they don't take each other out in any way, where we do. We take each other out. Now, there has been in place underground a hierarchy of a culture that is predominantly reptilian. On the surface, we have a culture that has been primarily Anunnaki, or maybe I should say more Nephilim. And what I mean by Nephilim is I mean half-breeds. Half Anunnaki, half human. Okay? Earth women who have had offspring. Now, those beings were not allowed to leave the last time the Anunnaki left completely, because they're half-breeds, you see. So that should tell you that the Anunnaki themselves have a class structure, a class system. You have the Nibiru, the ruling class, then you have the Anunnaki. And then underneath that, you will have a warrior class of beings who do probably the yeoman's work of everything that physically needs to be done. It is that lower class that rebelled 480,000 years ago when they came here to mine the planet and our solar system for gold. Okay, they're the ones that rebelled. They didn't want to be underground. They didn't want to do all the dirty work. So, now, as it's been explained to me, those that were here ruling were frustrated. They didn't want to be here anymore. They didn't want to babysit. They didn't want to take care of humanity. They had their little favorites, but the rest of humanity they had absolutely no use for. Okay, they weren't interacting in an outward way in any way, shape, or form. All of this was deep from the shadows. And humanity has been used as a tool by these beings for their pleasure and their amusement. Now, when we detonated the first nuke, in New Mexico. That got everybody's attention. Now, the thing is about the first nuke is that the United States didn't build that first bomb. The Nazis did. That was a German nuclear weapon. They couldn't get it to work. They couldn't figure out the trigger mechanisms. But we did. We figured that out. So that first nuke that was blown in New Mexico was a German Nazi nuclear weapon. But that got everybody's attention because nukes tear holes in the fabric of time. Unfortunately, the first batch of visitors we got after that were basically pirates. They were regressive. And they found a kindred spirit, not only with some of the reptilians, not all, but some groups that are under the surface of the planet. But they did with the Anunnaki who had remained and the Elohim that were here. And a plan was put together for an exchange of technology that we would build for them so that they then could leave the earth. And that is why in the late 40s, 50s, technology exploded out of nowhere. And it was because of this exchange of technology. Now, those who participated in this, it was so much more than just the United States military, the Russian military, the Germans or the English. There were other forces behind all this that they know, but humanity isn't supposed to know about this. Okay? They're not supposed to know about the ruling elite and the bloodlines. But that's really what we're talking about here. What also happened was a group from the Pleiades, and I am not talking about Aldebaran, I'm talking about from Tegeta, also made contact shortly after, I believe it was shortly after the first meeting with the Greys and the Orion group, some of which were humanoid. And they cautioned the world's governments about making such a deal or to against signing any kind of an agreement or treaty with this group, that they were simply not trustworthy. Well, apparently we had to learn the hard way, or we were manipulated into a situation where we had to make an agreement with the Orion group and the Greys because they were willing to help the Elohim and the Anunnaki that were here, stuck here, and some of the reptilian groups. Okay, they were all kindred spirits, like I said earlier. And they needed the technology in order to control, manipulate, and to actually leave the planet. Because they were tired of being here, stuck here. So that deal went down. What they didn't count on, though, was other benevolent races also being aware of this incident and investigating it for themselves. And that's how Earth, our solar system, got on everybody else's radar. Especially in the higher dimensions. Because when you tear holes in dimensional time, it sends a shockwave all the way up. I don't know how far it up, but we know it at least went to 6th density. Or at least that's what I've been told. that at least went to 6th density. And that those on 6 talked to 5 beings on the 5th density, investigated, started talking to the benevolence on 4th, those who they were mentoring and already had an established relationship, a genuine relationship with, one of trust. And that's how this whole thing began to unfold regarding the intervention. And it was shortly thereafter where they discovered these clusters of incredible soul groups that were here, who had this enormous gift of emotional range and actually had the ability to see higher dimensional realms. That was about 10 minutes, yeah. That's the short answer. Lauren, that's the short answer. But that's essentially it. That's the abridged, the Cliff Notes version. If you're my age, you remember Cliff Notes, right?